What are some helpful practices to cultivate a more harmonious relationship to your anger or your rage? In today's video, I'm going to go over some different practices or techniques that will be supportive for cultivating a better relationship with rage. Either if you're feeling disconnected from rage and want to be able to start to connect to that inner fire, that driving force, that motivation that I spoke to in my video yesterday. Or if it's a relationship that is maybe overextended and you want to understand how to discharge some of the energy, so that you can come back into capacity to navigate with the rage or emotion rather than as the rage or emotion. And this can also be a really supportive practice for plant medicine journeys with ayahuasca or other plant medicines if you have this experience come up in your journey, or just in daily life. If you feel that fight response come into the body, these techniques can be really supportive to discharge the energy, to allow you to come back into capacity to hold and be with the emotion without it overtaking you. My name is Natalie with the Wild Nature channel. I am here at Nimeyakaya Ayahuasca Retreat Center in Pucallpa, Peru. And my channel, Wild Nature, is all about providing you with empowering content, perspectives, and practices in order to peel back the layers and constructs and untruths and different ways of navigating life that don't feel resonant for you, so that you can come back to the truth and wholeness of who you are and feel more empowered in the way that you emerge into the world and be more open to life and all of the wildness that it has. So I want to talk about a couple practices that can be really supportive for either connecting to or discharging some of that energy of anger, rage, or that inner fire, so that you can either come back into capacity to hold and navigate with it, or you can start to cultivate a welcoming back home of it if you've been numbed to anger or rage. So one somatic practice is just tension release. So anything that brings a lot of tension into the body. So if you think about rage, it's something that wants to make a change, and it's a fight response. And so when you think about fight, what would you do if you were about to get in a fight? You tense up, you get the muscles ready. And so tension release can happen in many different ways. One easy one that you can start with is just taking one hand into a fist, taking the other hand and just flat, and you put the fist into the flat palm, and you just really tense up and try to press as hard as you can into the muscle. And you'll notice all of your arm muscles will get really engaged. You can even scrunch up your face to get it even more intense, like, and maybe you want to bring in some sound too. And just tension, 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 breathing. Maybe big, loud exhales. And then soften. Letting sighs out on the exhales. And maybe doing that a few times, like tension, holding the tension, breathing with the tension, allowing the tension to build, breathing, keeping the deep breaths is really important to calm and soothe the nervous system, even as you're engaging the muscles. And then like exhale, release, tension, exhale, release, tension, exhale, release. Maybe just trying that a couple times can really help to disperse the energy. Another one is just the same concept, but pressing down onto the legs, just making sure that you have your knees and your legs supported, so feet or legs at a 90-degree angle, so that you have a lot of grounding in the feet, and just pressing down. And you'll notice when you do it from this angle, maybe there's more activation because your core, your solar plexus begins to engage too. Everything starts to kind of come online, even your legs, engaging the quads, engaging the feet, and really engaging here. Same thing. You can bring the face into the equation, breathing with it. And exhale, release. And anytime you do a tension release practice, I invite you to just take a moment after the release to just notice what's happening in your inner world. Noticing any sensations, any shifts, if there's any rise in energy, if there's a specific location of a sensation, maybe there's some fire, some heat that begins to build in all the muscles as you find that tension release. This is also a practice you can do up against a wall. So making sure you have good footing. I kind of like to stagger my feet. So it's like one leg in front, the other foot behind. So I have something to push up against, and pushing up against the wall. I'm not standing all the way up so I can stay in screen, but pushing all the way against the wall with everything you have. And that's another one that starts to engage more of the body in the process. And so same thing, you want to breathe deep. Maybe you're having really breathy, loud exhales, because when you start to build this energy, if you think about rage, there's like there's this fire to it. And so breathing, same thing, doing that for maybe a couple seconds or longer, whatever feels in capacity for you, and then let go, allow the body to completely soften. And tension release is a really, really beautiful way to start to access this energy. It's also a good way to disperse some of the energy if there's too much of it building up. And you can do a little more gentle tension release. So say maybe you're in a social situation where you can't just like get into it. Just little things like maybe you have your hands in your lap and you just begin to just tense the muscles a little bit, breathing deep and then releasing, just tensing and releasing, just depending, on the type of social environment or engagement. And in social environments too, part of accessing our rage is knowing when we have capacity to be in social situations. So breathing deep is also another way to down-regulate the nervous system. So whenever we're in an upregulated state, so that would be fight or flight, whenever we're in that upregulated state that wants action, the best way to come back into safe and social, which is more neutral for the nervous system, is to downregulate. So we can either do that by dispersing the energy, or practices like deep breaths with longer exhales to activate the parasympathetic nervous system response can be really supportive to bringing down the energy. So if you're in a situation where you can't really get the tension released a little bit, you can try with the breath, maybe just some soothing self-touch. You can just do some massage or different things. Or I invite you to start practicing setting a boundary of knowing where your capacity is at. And maybe you just say to someone while you're having a conversation that might feel really triggering, like, hey, I'm wondering if we can pause just for a moment. I'm feeling a lot of heat in my body at this time, and it's feeling a little more challenging to receive what you're saying in this very moment. Not everyone's going to be receptive to this type of languaging, but really just doing more sensation-based awareness rather than I'm noticing that you're saying these things or you're doing these things and I'm feeling really pissed off. Try focusing more on hey, I'm noticing this thing that's happening in my body, whether it's heat, constriction, tension, and it's making it challenging for me to receive you. And I want to be able to talk about this from a neutral space. And so I'm wondering if we can either just take a pause and breathe together, or maybe we can just take 10, 20 minutes to just separate and come back to the breath and come back to a space, and you can do some tension release exercises there. And then we can come back together and we can talk about this again. So there are many different ways that you can kind of introduce that into more social situations and one-on-one situations to create some safety, to allow yourself to walk away when you're over capacity. There are also some really beautiful Kundalini practices. So I'm not a Kundalini yoga instructor. I am a yoga instructor, but I have not dived into the very vast realm of Kundalini. But I have been practicing Kundalini, and I find it really supportive because it touches on many of the different somatic elements of breath, touch, sound, and movement. One Kundalini yoga practice is also a tension release experience. And so this one is really beautiful. It can bring up some emotions that may be underneath the anger, or may need to be released to support with the anger or rage that feels present in the body, especially if it's something that's been suppressed. But this one is a really beautiful one. So With this exercise, you put your arms all the way out, kind of at a 45-degree angle out in front of you, maybe a little wider than 45 degrees, but putting the arms all the way out with the fingers spread wide. As you put your arms out, you take an inhale, and then you hold the breath, begin to curl everything into fists, and with all of your energy, so you want to engage your entire body, so like your biceps, triceps, everything. It's like you're trying to pull something that's 1,000 pounds into your heart, and you want to scrunch up your face, like make an angry face, and you're holding your breath this whole time. You're holding. And as soon as you reach the heart and you feel like you need to breathe, then you exhale and just take a moment, maybe a breath in between, and maybe just do that a few times. Just like really try to extend the length of the hold of your inhale as you bring all of this energy. And I invite you to really allow the whole body to be involved. And you can do this from a, comfortable seated position on the ground. You can do this in a chair. You can do it standing as well. But this is a really beautiful tension release exercise with that breath. And on the exhale, it's this, pa, and you open. And then you bring it back in and you do that again. Pa. Inhale, hold, bring it in, pa, on the exhale. And then after you do that, just taking a few moments to either close the eyes or have a soft gaze, and taking the hands either face up or face down on the thighs, and just notice, just witness, what is taking place in the body. And this allows us to kind of dispel some of that maybe pent up energy or energy we haven't accessed and felt, so that we can come back into a relational space with the anger. Another really beautiful one that I came across actually on YouTube that I've implemented a few times, and is very similar. It's got this tension release experience. It is called a silent scream. And silent scream, you take your hand into a fist, put it underneath your chin, and this creates a tension experience because you want to kind of press up, not a ton, but you want to press up into the chin. And at the same time, you want to like you're acting out a scream. So you want to like really wide mouth and like really press down into the fist as the fist is pressing back up. And I want you to, this is not one to go like halfway in. Like, don't just be like, yeah, okay, this is what it, like, you're like, I want you to think of like what a monstrous scream would feel like in every part of your face. So your whole face is engaged in this experience. Your eyes really scrunch up. You're like, imagine you're having this like bloody murder scream. So the whole face is engaged. You have the tension of the fist against the jaw, and you can just do that silently with the breath. And just do that for a few rounds of breath, and same thing afterward, just release. Notice what's arising in the body. Be with what's arising in the body. And some other elements that can be really supportive are sound. So with somatic safety, with cultivating a relationship with emotion, sound is a really beautiful way to bring the nervous system back into regulation through activating the vagus nerve. So there's a few sounds that come to mind. When I think about rage, like what sound does rage want to make? For me, it's like very animal, and I connect a lot to the animal of the tiger, like making grunting sounds, making loud exhales, like things like that are really supportive to kind of bring the nervous system online, also help to disperse some of the energy that is rising, and also connect if you're feeling disconnected. And it may feel a little weird at first to make those sounds. So finding a safe place where nobody's going to make fun of you or anything like that, like finding a safe space where you can do that. Another good one is Ujjayi breath. So Ujjayi breath is a pranayama technique, and it's engaging the back of the throat as you take long, slow, deep inhales and exhales, and it kind of sounds like an ocean wave. And the way you can do that is the same action that you would take if you were trying to fog up a mirror or clean a phone screen, like that. So you want to keep that, but you close the lips. and you breathe in and out of the nose, but you keep that slight constriction in the back of the throat. This is another really beautiful way to kind of engage that contact with just a little subtle element of rage, bringing the body back into regulation, but bringing sound into the equation. And if you need to, screaming. Screaming into a pillow. Screaming into a pillow is great. But the purpose of these exercises is not to release the rage. It is not to get rid of the rage. So I want to really emphasize that. The purpose of these exercises is to get in contact with it. If it's over capacity, it's to dispel some of the energy so that you can hold it. Because as we build this relationship, we are expanding our capacity so that when we meet these triggers, when we meet these situations, we can feel the trigger, but we're not driven by it. We can still navigate around it. And some other exercises, I really love doing rage dances. So rage dances for me, there's a lot of like stomping, like flicking the energy down, and it doesn't have to be full foot up and down, but even just like having a wide stance and pressing the heels down, lifting and dropping the heels. And as you do that, you can like shake the energy off a little bit. And with dancing too, you can get creative. If you're a dancer or a mover, maybe put on like a rage inspired playlist, and you can play around with like moving, like you're moving through, like pushing 1,000 pounds of energy away from you and up and away, and get your face involved and like make it a whole experience. So those are other ways that you can really support connecting to this energy of rage. And then I just want to finish it off with 2 final pieces. So if you're ever feeling over capacity, another piece that can be really supportive to kind of quickly drop you back is through shaking. And shaking can be just standing and bouncing up and down, allowing the arms, the head, the chest, everything to noodle, and like tuning into the breath, long, slow, deep breaths, but like really allow your whole body to get into the experience. And this is a really beautiful practice to just kind of quickly discharge the energy. Even if you take only 10 seconds or 20 seconds to just like, or even like flutter the lips, like loud breathy exhales to connect more to that fiery energy. That can be a really beautiful way to discharge some of the energy too. And then final piece is when you do come into contact with this, I've mentioned a few times, taking a moment to witness what's arising. And so I find really important aftercare to any discharging energy so it doesn't continue to build or grow, or so you don't kind of tip over into the edge and then have a big emotional release and then maybe feel dissociated or dysregulated through that big emotional release. Is starting to play with your capacity. And then after you are done with your exercise, I always invite coming back into the space through breath, touch, sound, and movement. So taking either a self-holding with one hand under the armpit, other hand on top of the opposite shoulder, or you can even just take some gentle massage up and down the arms, maybe feather light touch on the face, on the chest, on the neck, and just long, slow, deep breaths, candle breaths is what I like to use. So inhaling through the nose, slow exhales through pursed lips like you're trying to flicker a candle flame, and this will automatically increase the length of your exhale, which will bring you back into parasympathetic. And then orienting back into your space. So as you can be doing all these things at once. You can be giving yourself a massage, candle breathing, and looking around your space slowly. And all of these things trigger more of a down regulation to come back into this safety within the body. So I encourage you always ending with some form of somatic safety of breath, touch, sound, and movement. And you can even just like come back to a different kind of sound. And specifically is activating more for the heart too. So if you want to make a sound at the end, you can either Or you can have the VOO sound, which is really good for activating the vagus nerve, bringing us into parasympathetic. Or just taking loud exhales as you look around and reorient back into the space. And just notice how you feel. Notice that you're probably feeling way more present if you did these things to work through a trigger. And it brings you back into the space of, okay, I can navigate now. I can speak to this now. I can set my boundaries now. I can actually connect to that inner fire that I have. So I hope you enjoyed this video and you find these practices supportive for you to either connect and start to build that relationship with your rage, or to bring it back into balance if it's been overextended and there's other challenging emotions that surround your anger and rage. If you have anything that really landed for you, or if you did any of these practices, leave a comment. I'd love to hear how they worked for you. And of course, hit the like button if this is something that you want to see more of. Share this with anyone that you think could use some more support in cultivating this connection to their inner fire. And as always, subscribe to this channel for more content like this to keep you in this more empowered state, connect to your truth, and help you to navigate the world with a more open heart and be able to navigate through these emotions with more ease. Thank you all so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.